How are you actually strategizing for AEO and GEO when a lot of agencies have listed that like 80% of what they're doing is still traditional SEO? What's that 20% that you guys are doing that maybe is not being practiced by other agencies?
The old way is rankings, long form, and keywords. The new way is questions, chunks, and citations. So like I said, I think I said this earlier, 90% of ChatGPT citations are from pages outside of the top 20 of Google results.
So we've asked ChatGPT in various prompts, like, well, where are your sources from? Like, where do you pull your sources from? And so we're building this list of all the different websites that it's using to pull sources. And it tends to be research journals, like websites that have various journals.
Being the thought leader, schema-first formatting. So everything's schema-first, and then we build backwards off of that versus we were human-first before, and then added schema afterwards.
Good SEO equals you showing up in prompts, right? So you're building quality backlinks, you're doing good schema, you're doing great keyword insertion, you're doing all the parts of SEO. It just automatically will translate.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of SEO On-Air. I'm excited to have two great guests with us today. We have Brenton Thomas and Kevin McGrew, both running their own agencies and going to have some unique perspectives for us on SEO and AI specifically is what we're going to dive into today. So we're really grateful to have you guys here. Giving a little background on Brenton. Brenton's the founder of Twibi, a performance marketing agency that's driven millions in revenue for B2B and e-commerce brands through paid ads and SEO. He's spoken at major industry events, including Brighton SEO and Programmatic at I/O, and is known for helping companies turn ad spend into real pipeline, not just clicks. So thanks for being here, Brenton. And Kevin, excited to have you as well, man. Kevin is the CEO of Everzocial, and the author of the New Rules of Marketing Warfare. So just a quick tag to your book. He helps SMBs and franchises scale through the SMAC framework, which I hope you can give us a quick view of what SMAC stands for right now. Can you tell us what that stands for, Kevin?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, Brenton. SMAC is a military terminology that's used in urban warfare typically. It stands for shoot, move, communicate. I've kind of made an adaptation to it called shoot, move, adapt, communicate. And it's really a framework for businesses to apply marketing, a David versus Goliath approach to marketing, because most people are trying to mimic bigger competitors most of the time. Most businesses try to do what the big guys are doing, and they don't have enough budget. They don't have the resources that these big companies do. So SMAC is more of a Navy SEAL approach to warfare. My philosophy in marketing is business is war, marketing is the battlefield, and most businesses are going to war blindfolded. And so SMAC stands for shoot, move, adapt, communicate, and shoot is really knowing who you're shooting at and identifying your audience. Shoot with precision. If you know who your audience is, your messaging will adapt to exactly who you're speaking to. Instead of spraying and praying, you become a sniper, basically. And so that's super important to frame that is, if I'm going to go to, into a battle, I want to know who's my enemy, right? Or who is my target audience is probably a better marketing term. And then move is adaptability. As small businesses, that's really our upside, if you will, against big guys. We can adapt and move very quickly, very agile. And most people are, again, trying to act like the big guys. And you have to be able to use information and data to adapt quickly in this environment. You're going to blow through your budget very, very quickly. Adapt is data, basically. Like any good marketer, we are data driven. So, understand where that data comes from, Google Analytics, what a pixel is, Google Search Console, where all this data, business owners are not looking at data. They're kind of sticking their finger in there and hoping, smoking hopium, I call it. And so adapting from data allows you to make good business decisions quickly and be on target. And then communicate is having all your arsenal of messaging available and ready for those and using it as needed, like arrows in a quiver. if you know which ones are for which type of warfare, you're going to pull them and shoot them. You already know what it's going to do. Same with messaging. You don't have time to spin it up on the fly. You got to know what you're saying, when you're saying it, to who you're saying it. So that's the SMAC framework. Sorry for that was a long, but I wanted to make sure I got across. Yeah.
It's cool to hear the military framework behind it. Brenton, tell us about your agency. I mean, I talk a little bit about it. You guys do PPC and SEO, but tell us what makes you guys successful.
Yeah, so we're a paid ads agency. That's a majority of what we do. We also do a good amount of SEO and some email marketing. We are applying AI in a very limited way. AI it's not specific enough to what the client needs, so we have to really put a lot of guardrails around AI. We have to do a lot of thinking and then put it into AI. So that's how we're using AI for paid ads in a very general sense for paid ads and SEO and email marketing.
Well, I'm excited to have you both here. Like I said, the first question I want to start off with, jumping straight into the AI conversation, is really how you're enabling your team to be AI experts and utilize the systems to be more efficient. I think it's kind of a way that agencies are either going to step ahead or fall behind on whether or not their efficiencies are keeping up with their competitors. So Kevin and Brenton, tell me a little bit about your adoption with AI use in the agency and how you're enabling your employees to be, successful with it.
Yeah, I can jump in. So in the very beginning of using AI, we built a lot of GPTs inside of ChatGPT. We built gems inside of Gemini and Claude. We built quite a few custom GPTs, I guess you can call it. And the GPTs, when we put the directions in there, the ChatGPT wasn't following what we were saying close enough. So we actually kind of backed away from doing like really customized GPTs and gems, etc., and just really using AI to kind of rewrite some of our copy. We do most of the thinking outside of it, and then we'll put in our input into AI because it's just not personalized enough for what the client needs. There's all these real world inputs. So we're having conversations with the client. We do our best in prompts to tell AI what we need when writing ad copy, etc. And it just wasn't dialed in enough and really speaking to like the differentiating points of the client. So now what we do is we do all the thinking. We'll take the first pass of writing whatever we need, and then we'll tell ChatGPT or Gemini to rewrite basically what we've already thought about, and we'll write it almost to completion, and then ChatGPT will just take it to the last 5%. That's how we're using AI.
That's an interesting contrast when I feel like there's been maybe a 50-50 split on agencies that are fully adopting AI writing and using it at scale, where you've actually moved back away from it due to the inaccuracies, and you're now trusting your writers to do it right the first time.
Yeah. It's just, I think in time, AI will get better. There's no doubt about it. But at this point, based on what our clients need, and we're really trying to separate our clients from all the other competition in their industry, each respective industry. And AI is just, it's not producing a high enough level output unless we, as a human, take it 90% and the AI does the last 10%, really just correcting grammar or moving some sentences around that we've already structured.
Kevin's shaking his head in pretty much full agreement. Kevin, what are your thoughts on the way they're using AI?
Yeah, I love it. I think, it's like anything, it's always interesting to hear how other people are doing, because you kind of feel like you live in a little bit of a bubble. I'm definitely part of a lot of agency owner groups and things like that. And we're kind of on the forefront of what we're doing, but you don't know until you start talking to people, right? And so that's really cool, Brenton. Yeah, I love that. I think I'll go at a higher level, and then I'll kind of come in where Brenton left off. Is I feel if you're not building an AI native team in 2025, you're building a team that's going to be obsolete in 2026. So that's kind of the philosophy that we're operating. I've honestly cut back my team or pruned my team from about 16 people to about 8 right now. So about 50% of my team, because we had a sprint for 6 months, a learning sprint, and see who could keep up, who was motivated to really adopt AI. Because most of my team were not what I call AI natives. They were AI immigrants. Just like you immigrate to a country and you got to learn everything. I think a lot of us are immigrants to the whole AI world. But we're seeing a cropping up of what I would call AI natives or AI fluent individuals, marketers. And that's kind of where we're headed, is expecting and looking for AI fluent marketers to join our team. And so what we've done over the last 6 months in planning for kind of 2026, we're still not playing with it. We're still kind of rolling out testing, trying to get it narrowed down. But our 2026 playbook, if you will, we've totally rewritten it with new internal SOPs, frameworks, but AI is baked into it now, especially for SEO, GEO, AEO. We need to have that baked right into the thinking, because you tend to go back to what you know, which is SEO old school is a little different. The fundamentals are there, but we had to bake in more of that forward thinking, AI thinking into our processes. So that's kind of where we started philosophically. And then we built a tech stack that supports that. So, we've gone with, for example, OpenAI as our in-house tech stack. So we use Teams. We've trained everybody on projects. So we're using projects because projects have memory for each client. So each client gets a project, if you will. We feed it all the documents. We're able to share, the project brief, all the information that's relative to a project, their tone of voice, their brand messaging, all that information is trained, and we're able to share that amongst the team. And then as we engage AI, we have some context there. The analogy I use a lot is like the sun shining down on all of us. Some of us get burned, some of us don't, But if you took a magnifying glass to the sun, it turns it into a laser. And so that's context. So the more context you give AI, the more it turns into a laser, because it's really trained on all the internet up to 2022 or something like that. So you don't want all that context when you're asking a question, because you'll get generic answers. And to Brenton's point, that's what most people are doing. And that's why the content sucks. And so with that extra context layer, the model we've moved to address the content creation is we moved to a 60, 30, 10 model. So 60% is written by AI, ideated and written by AI. 30% is edited by an editor, not a copywriter. So we kind of got rid of our copywriting team and moved more towards an editorial team. Editors think differently than a copywriter does, because the copywriter was fighting with AI, is what we found. And they were, this is wrong. And if there's poison in the water, you don't want to drink any of the water. And that's what I kind of hear from Brenton is like, hey, there's still poison in the water. I don't know if I want to drink this water yet fully. And so what we felt was use AI for that, with that context window, tight, narrow, so the content is going to be very relevant. But we need an editor to make sure the goals, the objectives of the article, the content is achieved. And then 10% is taken over and added to by a copywriter. So a copywriter then comes in and they will look for EAT, make sure it's got what Google's looking for, authority, experience, all those things in EAT. And then what we're adding to that is frequently asked questions, product information, things that are specific. And then we're schemaizing that so it speaks directly to GEO, these crawlers basically that are LLM related. So that's kind of the philosophy of content creation, but along with the technical aspects to make sure it meets the future of SEO.
So we've, so a year ago, we were doing 90% AI, 10% editing of like blog posts, right? For SEO, we're trying to get them to rank. We would find our target keyword using SEMrush. We had a whole prompt. It was like maybe a series of 3 prompts for ChatGPT. First prompt is have ChatGPT develop the outline. would give guardrails around it. We would go back, edit the outline, then resubmit it back to ChatGPT and say, now create, 1/3 of the blog, because there's a word limit for how many words you could do with ChatGPT in the output. And we need like a 2,000 word article, right? Or a blog post. And so then we would stitch it all together, do some editing. And then we realized that it wasn't ranking as well as like 100% human written content. So once we saw that, we would give it time, we'd give it, 4 months, see how it would rank. And it would build a little bit of ranking, a little bit of impression, some clicks would come out of it. But when we compare it to the human stuff, it was like, well, we have to do like, probably 5 articles that are, AI based. You could do 1 human article and get the same output. So that was another reason why we backed away. That was last year. I'm sure AI has gotten better, but it did feel like there's a little bit of poison in the water.
Yeah, no, definitely OpenAI is not as good at writing as Claude. So we do use Claude for actual like ideation and the initial content. We do use kind of automations too. We've taken what we did and we've used N8N to automate that initial, like we'll seed the ideation and say, give us a bunch of options here, and then it'll give us those. And that's where the editors come in. And sometimes they'll merge 2 or 3 versions of an article to get it to where it's got it. So the human aspect, before you're right, we would have to get our copywriters would fight and they would rewrite the article because they didn't trust it. The editors can really get to the point, know the tone, everything that we're trying to achieve, and go there. And I only know this because I wrote a book. In writing the book, I realized how important editors are, compared to a writer, a ghostwriter, for example. I just did it. They all seem the same to me.
I want to jump in here and ask a question because I think that you guys are actually touching, like, it sounds like you're like separate on the situation, like how you approach it. But I'm actually curious, Kevin, when I think of your analogy, I thought of like that magnifying glass, like really targeting in on a specific spot. I've found that there is a level of creativity that comes from a human that might notice that there's like a leaf that you're not able to get through and the humans try to maneuver under a leaf.
100%.
How is your team, because you have to feed strategy into that bot, how is your team approaching that strategy to make sure it's creating content that is genuinely unique and not just broad? Because I think that's where there's a little bit of a contrast here, is how are you establishing the human strategy into the AI content?
Well, definitely we're using AI to help the editor gain context to the industry, competitors, and the business of the customer. So it's kind of like a project brief, if you will. Without that context, you just can't like edit something. You need to know where it's got to be based on something. So that base comes from the competition. So seeing what competitors in the marketplace are doing, because if you sound like a PhD and everybody else sounds like a plumber, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb, kind of thing. So it's got to be some relative, like, how do we beat everybody, but not be way out there? So understanding the competition, understanding the industry and the audience. Obviously the target audience is the key. So we might have 5 audiences that we target, depending on the funnel: awareness, interest, desire, action. So if we're doing an awareness article, it's going to be different because we're targeting all dentists or like orthodontists, pediatric dentists. But if we're talking about middle of the funnel, we might be targeting orthodontists in particular. So we might be a little bit more using terminology that an orthodontist would understand so that they're picking that up. I don't know if that's answering your question, but yeah, that's basically those leaves that we see. We're going in with looking for those things. We use Surfer SEO as a way to rank how it's predictive on how you will rank based on number of keywords, your content, and it ranks you against the top 10 current ranking articles. And so we use tools like that kind of help the editor know if they're narrowing it down to because nobody can know this all in their head, if you will. We have to have tools. So we do have a tech stack that helps them. And then we have an AI checker for plagiarism and checking for AI tone, but they're not always 100% accurate as well. So it's really it's really the editor that we're paying them a little bit more than we did our copywriters, but it's up to them to get us across the finish line. Right.
And are the articles ranking? They're getting some good traction.
They are now. Yeah. I took, honestly, what we see, you're smoking, you're hoping, you're holding your breath for 3 to 4 months, and it's not, but we also do some backlinking in there initially, some middle backlinking, because by itself, there's just so much noise out there. I think this is my Kevinology. I think Google allows it to sit 3 to 4 months and bake a little bit. And then as it crawls it and you're putting in some backlinks and stuff, it jumps. So we've seen it like nothing. And then all of a sudden it jumps to being mentioned in an AI overview, or we are getting really good rankings on it. We just did that for like a sod farm on a new type of variant, Bermuda grass. They did not rank we actually negative keyword for Bermuda grass for so long that we thought it was going to be impossible now, because now they want to sell it. And we're like, oh my God, are we going to get them past this? But we've been doing like 20 articles a month, blog posts and things like that, much higher volume, and but high quality. And so I think volume starts to give you that credibility, and the DR is super important of the site. So if you have a 2 or 3 DR, you're not going to, no matter what content you put out, it's going to take longer to rank, right?
What came to mind when you guys were talking about the content was actually comparing it to something I've seen in our conversations with guests about backlinking. And there's a lot of guests that want to believe that they're so white hat in their backlinking that they will only do like PR releases because those are the ones that work. But they work because you could see the results so quickly, whereas guest blog posting is like a steady build to success that's not necessarily as exciting, but is consistently getting results. And I'm curious if that's like a good comparison to AI created content that may not be as exciting as someone's human written article that maybe is more of like a scalpel, like super precise, versus the cost effectiveness of AI and the quantity of the data that can establish you as more credible over time and win the long game instead of the short game.
Yeah, go ahead, Brenton.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, if you have the resources to just do human written content, and in my perspective, and you use AI to maybe kind of check some of the grammar, maybe restructure some of the sentences, I do think in the long run, it probably is more of a scalpel. It's more specific. You can speak to experiences in that industry. I do think, even with Kevin's way on the flip side, I do think you could have it more AI based and then have someone go in and edit and then add the human experience and fulfilling EAT. So I can see both ways working. The human side does take a lot more effort. It takes a lot longer to write it from scratch. So there probably is some value to having AI just be your base, and then you can build off that. So I can see both ways being a scalpel.
I think it's interesting that you could technically just scrap a few AI articles that you felt like really missed the mark and still be possibly on the upside on the cost effectiveness of the tool.
We've written over the course of, I want to say maybe 9 months, we wrote 250 blog posts for our own agency. We're doing some testing to see, and they're all AI written, right? And we would edit maybe 10% of it. And so we saw that there was one article, digital marketing for law firms. Like that was like the keyword that we're targeting. The whole article's AI based, and that article shot up through the roof, right? And I think that Google takes months for it to understand how to rank your content. So it's crawling it over and over, and it shot up after 3 months. It stayed pretty high, and then it tapered out really bad, like pretty hard. So I like to think of it as human written. Maybe it was an algorithm update. I can't remember. It was last year. Maybe it was an algorithm update that where EAT started to have more weight, and AI is not good at fulfilling all parts of EAT. So maybe if you add more of the EAT aspects into it, I think it probably could have gained its ranking and then held its ranking over time.
Yeah, we try to do founder-led content as much as the author of our, not all of it, because some of it's just more supportive pillars. But lead pillar content, we try to turn the founder or the president, CEO, into an author, if you will. We build them a author page. We have them do a video, like a YouTube video that we put on that page. Like, we really try to build up their authority and expertise. And then we leverage that, the editors leverage that person into the content for ideal AI. Not all of the content, let's say about 70% we're kind of shifting to. It's been about half and half, but we're shifting more to that because long-term we feel EAT is still going to be a strong determination. Even if you dive, I think it'll drift back up in the long term because it's very white hat. That's what we've always not like gone total white hat, but what we found is we do things right. Long term it pays off, right? When the algorithm shifts, man, people die, we kind of pop up, kind of thing. And so the other question you had was with the backlinks, we kind of use a stacking philosophy or crawl, walk, run philosophy. So we do more backlinks, like social backlinks, bookmarks, citations, make sure all that's good. Like if your NAP is not good, if you're not, like, the site itself doesn't have really good fundamentals, like, you're just temporarily getting spikes in your content, So crawl is getting all the fundamentals nailed down. Then we shoot for social bookmarks. We'll post on a bunch of, not so high ranking, but middle ranking sites where we can post content and backlink.
Let me get a definition from you there. What would you consider like a middle ranking website? Like
common blog post site where you can submit your own blog post and without naming names, basically there's sometimes it's considered junk, but we monitor that with SEMrush and Ahrefs and, kind of see.
Are there specific DAs you shoot for, or is that not defined?
It's in the 20 to 30s, I would say, is that kind of, and we find that it's just lays a base layer for the good stuff to work. Because I think without that base layer, you're hit or miss with the
kind of giving yourself a floor where you're not going to drop below that.
We're not going to drop below that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I can appreciate that.
That's 12 years of doing this and trying different things. Now it's Kevinology, like with my team.
SEO is right.
Right. But that's kind of what we're rolling with. I'm just being transparent, but those social bookman shows the client, we're very transparent with all our links. So they get to see every link we do. So they see more, and they're plumbers, doctors, lawyers, and they look and they go, oh, I got 5 social bookmark links this month. They go, there's the little article that or little reference we wrote about the company or the service or whatever it is. And it ties back. That buys us time to sometimes have multiple months where we don't do a high ranking backlink because we got to build that budget that's in the monthly fee to get to somewhere we can afford a higher backlink.
Similar to how we approach it just from like our own strategy, where you really can't just give someone a ton of DA 50 backlinks and say this is going to be successful. It's just not natural. It's not how that happens. So I can appreciate building that foundation. I'm going to switch into the next question, which I really think transitions well from what we were talking about with content, but it's really about who's benefiting the most from the changes to AI overviews, because there's definitely a question of how much publishers, websites, the content creators are actually being hurt by this. So I'm curious to hear how you're navigating that. Give me your perspective on how much AI is actually taking away from your customers and how you're combating that.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think what's helping the most AI overviews is without a doubt Google. I think Google's main goal is to keep the user on Google as long as possible. If they could keep you there all day and then you never click through on any website, I think Google that's their main goal. So I do think like okay, so I have multiple clients, and when I look in Google Search Console, I can definitely see clicks are down because people are getting their answer through the AI overview. But I do think if you're looking for something lower in the funnel, if you're looking for actual services and you're ready for that conversion, then the AI overview can't replace that, right? They have to go to your website. They have to go to the contact us page. and they have to submit the form. So those clicks aren't down, but the discovery part of information gathering and research, that part is definitely down. So it definitely hurts, I believe, pretty much all websites except for Google. I think it's great for Google. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, I agree. I back up what Brenton's proposing there. I think it's a real fair question a lot of people have, but it's hard to answer. It's like marketing 101. It depends, kind of thing, right? But it depends on the business model. So I'll give you an example. We have a publisher who, not most of our clients are publishers. Most of our clients are like seeking business, kind of thing. But we do have a publisher. It's a mommy blog that does recipes, and their business model is to monetize traffic. So the more traffic they have, the more money they make, because they have, they get paid on people eyeballs. Basically, they went from $1 million a year business to 400,000, just major drop, and they're, how do we get back? Panicking because they were living the good life for years and not doing much, just posting. And it was all real content. It wasn't AI generated. But it still got hit in that March update of 2024.
I love your analogy to kind of explain that, though, is now someone's got a magnifying glass and they're hunting for exactly what they want, not just a broad view.
Right. People were like throwing it out there and hoping something stuck, and that Google got it right. Now with the AI overviews, you're right. I think Brenton is 100% right. That top of the funnel is, you're getting instant credibility, though, if your name is in that AI overview. So, because you're like standing next to the boss, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, you must be important, right? But it doesn't always translate. It's more brand awareness, right? It doesn't always translate into a closed deal because you don't have a plumber that can come out to my house. This guy does, kind of thing. And so I agree with Brenton in that it's better for clients, in a sense of they still got to click. The qualities there, quantities died for sure. I would say 30-40%. And we prepped our clients, thankfully. We just said, hold your breath. Your numbers are going to drop, but your conversion rates should go up. Like we have KPIs that we're shifting expectations with them. So they see that what we said is happening and now they trust us. But that was a scary time for about 6 months of seeing that traffic just continuously drop.
I can see, like if you do good SEO, right, you get your backlinks, you find good keywords that represent a gap in the internet, low difficulty, good volume, you insert your keywords the right way, et cetera, et cetera. I do see clicks, like, okay, so if you go in GA4, I see clicks declining or traffic and sessions for organic search declining. But then on the flip side, we can see traffic from ChatGPT referral traffic, that's increasing. But we've noticed that it's not a one-to-one session. Like if you lose one session in organic search, it doesn't equal one session from ChatGPT. It's more like 10 sessions lost in organic search equals like one session in ChatGPT. So overall, the sessions are down, but you can see organic search kind of going down like this, and then you can kind of see ChatGPT, going up at a lower level. But at least you can see there's a transfer. And there's no way to get like direct correlation at this point. It's hard to know that person would have been in Google, but they decided to use ChatGPT instead. There's no way to build that correlation, but you can feel the correlation in your data.
Seen a few LinkedIn posts talking about that recently, about like, hey, if we had 20 people on our team search on ChatGPT for the same question, does it even give them the same answers? Does it give them the same recommendations? And it's likely not going to. Like all 20 people are going to get a slightly different response based on their own past history of using the system. So there's a question of how to optimize for them. And I have a story that was from another agency again, that they had a garage door company that they were working with, and they were ranking and getting a ton of traffic all across the nation for like how to reprogram your garage door remote. They loved it, took a ton of people to their website. Maybe it wasn't converting. There's probably some truth that it's top of funnel pretty high, but it is some brand recognition. And that traffic has essentially shut down because you don't ask Google that anymore and find a website that tells you how to buy their product. You ask ChatGPT that tells you how to reprogram your remote so that you don't have to worry about all the other ads and the marketing and other stuff that kind of feels, and like you said, when Google wants you to stay in there forever, there's a reason. There's ads, there's all kinds of visual things that make it a reason to be there. How are, for them, that customer recognized that and decided they wanted to go all in on AI because they want to still be ranking for showing and giving those answers to people inside of the results for brand recognition. It seems like there's a real estate grab that's available inside of ChatGPT and other systems, assuming your customer is optimizing for it right. Tracking it is extremely difficult, and kind of the strategy for how you're going to optimize it is extremely difficult. So I want to ask you both those questions for how a customer or an agency might be navigating. How are you tracking this data, which is complicated, and how are you optimizing for this?
Go ahead, Brenton.
Okay, so there's no okay, so like I'm gonna start with SEO. So like if I want information based on who's coming to my website, what's driving impressions, clicks, etc., I'm gonna use Google Search Console to give me that information. There's a lot of data in there, but there isn't an equivalent software for AI. There's no Google Search Console for ChatGPT. That doesn't exist. And so when the data flows into GA4, that's mainly where I'm looking. It just shows up as referral and all the traffic's kind of collected together. So at this point, I haven't seen a solution to really like segment the data and to understand like that you can add a secondary dimension in GA4. So you can do like region, you can do device type, right? To split that traffic out, the lumped together ChatGPT traffic. But I don't have at least to my knowledge, there's not a way to know that this person searched for this prompt and then you showed up. Another way you could segment the data using a secondary dimension GA4 is landing page. That's probably the best way to segment the data. And the landing page that you land on is your intent to learn about that topic. So I could tell you what's working, right? Like you maybe just optimize that landing page and then you see that it's starting to show up more referral traffic from ChatGPT. That's probably the best way to know what's working or not in ChatGPT.
Have you tested any tools, Brenton, that you maybe, one of the things we've seen is there's a ton of tools popping up all across the industry. There's a fair amount of question as to how effective they are, or if they're giving you data that's actually going to be useful, or if you're just paying for rankings that are maybe like trophies on the wall. They feel good to you, but they're not necessarily super applicable to success. Have you tested anything that you've seen, any type of results that you feel comfortable with?
Tools that we're testing with? Yeah, we testing. I'm a tool addict. I don't know if you ever heard of AppSumo, but I think I'm a founding member of AppSumo, kind of thing. I've been doing it for like 10 years. So it's kind of like being a venture capitalist. You get these lifetime deals on these up and coming softwares, and then maybe later most of them kind of don't hang around or don't make it through, but you get some gold. Like Zapier, we got a lifetime thing for Zapier when it was on AppSumo, and that allowed us to really play with it, get to use it. A lot of these SaaS can get expensive. And so we're kind of an early adopter to tools. So I have a whole thing on tools, but without boring the audience here and going down rabbit holes. Yeah, we kind of have a testing funnel for tools. So like Profound is one that we're ending up with right now it's our current AI visibility tool, kind of thing. It's called Profound AI, I think it is. And there's a lot of them that are new to the market. There's some are expensive. Brand rank is can be more expensive. It's more geared towards the brand versus like big brands looking where they're at versus an agency view, if you will. So yes, there's a lot. We're all about tool stacks. We have a testing like a committee where they're kind of the AI early adopters, and they test things, and then we vet it for our team, and we say, okay, we're going to dumb it down, simplify it. This is how we're going to use it in-house, because we were getting shiny object syndrome for hey, look at this, check this out, do this. And everybody's like, heads were spinning, in our agency. So we had, and I'm that way. I'm all shiny object syndrome. What's new? What's going on? And so I have to be careful that what I'm playing with doesn't get to the team yet until we've fully vetted and tested it. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of our process for intake of new.
It does, actually. I am pretty curious about the tools. Like Profound has actually come up fairly often as a tool that lets people dive a little deeper into those rankings than maybe some of the other tools. I think you can even build like personas out in Profound, so you can really try to identify the right client and see what their results might be based off of different criteria you can set in there.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's like $400 a month.
That seems to be the benchmark on the pricing. Yeah.
SEMrush charges similar, and it's not as good, kind of thing. And I'm just against SEMrush on all takes because they just seem to ding you to death, kind of thing. So I'm the antichrist of SEMrush. I still use it, but yeah.
I'll say, Brenton, your answer actually aligns too with those that aren't using the tools. A lot of them have tested a lot of the tools, and they just don't trust that the data is that valuable to them yet. And they've leaned, I think one of the common things I've seen is people just using Ahrefs to track trends. They're not trying to find every single keyword ranking that's technically not a keyword ranking inside of the tools, and they're just tracking overall trends in traffic. So I think you're aligned with the other side of that strategy, which is not necessarily bought in on all the tools being perfect. I feel like now's a good time to mention that we're sponsored by, I'm just kidding, by a specific
by SEMrush. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm just using that. I do think it's funny that this is like a unique opportunity for agencies to actually hear what other agencies are using. It's not necessarily that you're promoting them, but it's really what you feel comfortable with using and why. I think it's really valuable for more agencies to know what tools are producing the right data, even knowing that not everyone trusts traffic data with Google Analytics because it can be inaccurate. Another thing that as you're getting started, you don't know, and you can just trust blindly as success, as you would gauge it as success. The next question is partially been asked already, but we didn't get the answer yet. But the real question for me, we know that for the past year, people were very nervous about AI being dead, SEO being dead, and AI just basically killing it. And I think come July, agencies started to feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that like SEO is an essential part of everything AI does, and you really can't stop having those factors that apply to how valuable a website is. AI still needs to recognize where to go for information. So the real question for now is, how are you actually strategizing for AEO and GEO when a lot of agencies have listed that like 80% of what they're doing is still traditional SEO? What's that 20% that you guys are doing that maybe is not being practiced by other agencies? Where do you feel like you've done something that's unique?
I'll jump on that one real quick and then hand it over to Brandon. But SEO isn't dead. Is what I
almost hate saying that on the podcast because I'm so sick of hearing it, but yeah.
No, it's everywhere. I went to these Brighton SEO conference, all these conferences, and everybody's like shocking everybody to say SEO is dead, but it's really more of a hype thing when there's nothing backing up to show that. If anything, GEO, all these new ways of AI using it, they're leveraging SEO to get to what they need to faster than a human can and show you what you can do. So SEO is more important than ever, but good SEO. Like there's a lot of crappy SEO, right? The way I position it is with my military background is it's just been drafted into a new war, basically. It's still a soldier, but it's a soldier in a new war. And, at Everzocial, I'll pump my agency a little bit here. So we're not just reacting to that shift, because it's easy to react to everything. And before you know it, you're kind of like stuck with mud on you, because it moved again. And you kind of bought into this and all of a sudden there's mud all over you. You got to be careful as an agency because I got 12, 15 years of credibility, a reputation I got to manage as well, right? So my clients are trusting me to show them the way. I'm their Sherpa to climb Mount Everest. And so we're actively building for it is what I like to tell people. So it's not perfect, but we've come up with a framework that we call Answer. And Everzocial, play on our name, Everzocial. But Answer is our proprietary approach to AEO. And it's really focused on AEO, even though I shared this a little earlier. AEO is a stepping stone to where real user behavioral Google type results are going. I think it's going to be very predictive in the future. AI is going to know what you're looking for and show you versus you having to search for it. But we're not there yet. That's 3-4 years away. Right now, it's AEO, Answer Engine Optimization, and GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. So we designed it. The goal is to help brands show up in Google, basically, but not just Google, in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google, SGE, Claude, and all these up and coming places people are searching for. And mostly what they're doing is they're asking questions now. If you really look at the trend, is people have gotten away from short keywords to long tail questions, right? That's what we're seeing a lot more of that trending. And Google's been on top of that for a while with the answers, in the 0 position results for, a long time. But it's just become more, the AI they're using to scrape sites and crawl sites is much faster, much more deeper. They can crawl a 2,000 word, where before it was 200 words before they would determine what it was, right? The crawlers. So it really was limited by the crawling technology, and that's come a long way. Every LLM has their own crawlers now. If you heard about Cloudflare is actually blocking a lot of the LLM crawlers because they're stealing proprietary information or like publisher information. So you got to work around all this. So we've taken all that warfare into consideration and built out more of a strategic mindset angle to it. So questions over keywords, like I'm just going to give you some quick perception stuff. Chunks over long form. So chunks of content versus over long form, and citations over rankings. So that's a mindset shift. We have to train our clients to what to look for first, and then that's how we're building for. And because the old way is rankings, long form, and keywords, the new way is questions, chunks, and citations. So like I said, I think I said this earlier, 90% of ChatGPT citations are from pages outside of the top 20 of Google results, right? So, and it's pulling from these ones that have chunks, questions, and citations. Not that they geared it towards that. It's just, that was the approach they took organically, and they're getting cited for it now. And then there's more to it. We've built like a whole AEO framework and system so it's like question-led content creation is very much as part of our how we automate is got to be question-led content versus like sounding like a pro, kind of thing, and being the thought leader. Schema-first formatting. So everything's schema first, and then we build backwards off of that versus we were human first before, and then added schema afterwards. Most humans aren't reading anymore. They're summarizing everything. You got these little chat things on the side that summarizes a whole page for you. If you look at all the new Google browser has a little Google button you push there and it summarizes it for you. So people don't want to read a whole article. So we're building it for AI so it'll read it faster and summarize it and get what you want that point across. And we're using this is a little secret sauce I'm going to share with everybody, is we call it LLM.text. You've heard of a sitemap.text, right? Or, it's like a sitemap, but it's built for LLMs. Like it's got who, what, where, why, when, all about that article and all about the website itself. At the bottom in the footer, we're putting it there. Now, it's theory. I'm not seeing it consistently picked up, but we're seeing it that content shows up in results more than what's on the page sometimes.
It's funny it's almost like in the black hat techniques of like hiding things in the page so the LLMs can see it. But when it works, it's hard to deny results
100%. It's not consistent, but why not do it if it's like a fallback strategy? Yeah.
Brenton, well, I mean, there's a bunch of information there. I want to know, do you agree? Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely think that good SEO equals you showing up in prompts, right? So you're building quality backlinks, you're doing good schema, you're doing great keyword insertion, you're doing all the parts of SEO. It just automatically will translate. Like I said, I've seen the data inside of my GA4 accounts for multiple clients. So we haven't really changed much for the LLMs at this point, but we're more of in the phrase of like doing research around like, well, what do we need to do moving forward? And so we've asked ChatGPT in various prompts, like, well, where are your sources from? Like, where do you pull your sources from? And so we're building this list of all the different websites that it's using to pull sources. And it tends to be research journals, like websites that have various journals. So we're trying to figure out, how do we get a backlink from some of these websites, or how do we get featured into some of these research journals for our clients? And we don't have a process for it yet, but we're trying to figure that out right now.
Okay, guys, this has been great. I actually enjoy that we just had 2 guests today. It's time for we got a lot more information from you than I typically would have been able to with more guests on the call. So I really appreciate your time. We're a little bit over, so thanks for extending your time with us. Just as a last note, Stan Ventures is out there building manual backlinks at a fraction of the cost of most of your current providers. Please reach out if you're interested in learning more about our program. And this has been another great episode of SEO On Air. Thanks for being here, guys.
Can I say one more thing? We have a prompt that we use for quoted. That's for backlinks, right? And we've landed some amazing backlinks from American Express, Fiverr, Yahoo, et cetera, like massive DA websites. If anyone wants that prompt, we're glad to just give it out for free so other agencies can do the same.
I'm gonna say connect with you on LinkedIn and make the request. Let's have some people reach out.
Yeah, please. I'm very approachable on LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn as well. Brenton, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn as well. And please, if you have any questions from what we talked about today, hit me up on DM on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you, guys.